Does the 4-day work week, working Monday through Thursday, appeal to your lifestyle? Does it appeal to the lifestyle of the average American? Is it doable in America? Although it's been successful in other nations, will it work in the United States? I spoke before mostly on the pros of this situation, not so much on the cons. So now I want to give a more comparative view where you have both sides to make a more sound decision as to whether or not you feel that Free Fridays is doable. Starting with the pros, an NPR study of Microsoft Japan quoted that they saw a 40% increase in productivity. That's huge. New Zealand saw a 45% increase in productivity and work-life balance. Well, how does work-life balance affect productivity? Hugely. Work-life balance, you have more rest, more clarity, more concentration, more attention to detail. All of these things together add for a more productive workplace, a more productive employee. It also has shown that it reduces costs. There's been a huge cost reduction, which has benefited many companies and industries that have implemented the short work week. Overhead costs cut merely in half. And also, employers have reduced sick leave payout because their employees are sick less, because they have more time to rest. And it's also benefited the employee in having to pay lower and less insurance premium costs because they are going to the doctor less than before. It also appeals to the younger generation in their 20s and 30s who are new to professional careers but are still in the process of pursuing graduate studies to make them a more viable prospect in their careers. The short work week gives them the flexibility to do both. In a Forbes article, they also noticed that it increased gender diversity because women are inclined to lean more towards industries and companies with a better work-life balance. It also shows decreases in employee rigorous feedback with a negative input, where there's more grievances in employee-employer relations. It's decreased that and increased more cohesive employee-employer relations, which also benefits the employer tremendously. And it also helps the worker. When you have a better work environment to go to every day, you look forward to going to work. You look forward to putting in your work and making a difference. It also appeals to the older adults, middle-aged adults like myself, because it's a closer transition to retirement. You're already cutting your workday in half. Well, not in half, but having a Friday off is huge. Having 3 days for your weekend is huge. This gives older adults more time to participate in volunteer activities, things that they may be interested in upon retirement. They can get a head start in getting involved in those things. They can use this time for appointments, for medical appointments, teacher conferences, what have you. And it also gives everyone more time for their families. In regards to the cons, the first thing that's kind of been noted in most of the countries, although it's slight, it's still noted. There have been changes in the social environmental impact of the short work week. When you have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off, you have more time to socialize. and go out. So what happens is they have shown that there has been a minimal increase in the overindulgence in the use of alcohol and drugs. Although it's slight and the numbers are low, it's still happening all the same. And we have to try to work that out as well. There's lifestyle challenges involved. One thing, childcare. For single parents and even two-parent households, childcare can be an issue when you're not working the full day, or if you're working longer hours and you're unable to pick up your child from school. There's going to have to be something that fills in that gap and takes care of that situation for parents. What they currently have done, there are many companies and industries, large companies, that have on-site childcare facilities. Small companies have that as well. And it's a good idea to implement it. You can only gain from it. But there's also been a decrease in sales for the sales industry. Any industry or company, automobile sales, what have you, anything related to sales has shown a dip in sales with the initial rollout of the 4-day work week. Not being available for the full 5 business days, your prospects are inclined to visit the competition. So what many industries and companies have done is they've managed to make their work schedules flexible. There are some who may work the earlier part of the week, some who may work the later part of the week and weekends with free Mondays. So it's a win-win for everyone. But one of the biggest cons, and actually what has put this on pause in the United States, is the impact that it has on our hourly waged workers, who are our lowest waged workers. 65 million Americans make below $14 an hour. That's huge. So even cutting 1 hour impacts their income hugely, impacts their ability to afford health care, afford the high cost of living. So within these discussions and conversations with labor unions, what they've pointed out is a decrease in hours also decreases the pay of our low-wage workers. And one of the fixes that come up all the time, and currently, presently, in our political climate, is raising the minimum wage. That's a start. And also, remember those overhead costs that have been cut almost in half that I spoke of earlier? There's money that can be taken from that to give pay raises. Because an increase in productivity is an increase in revenue. When revenue increases, when employee relations increase, everybody benefits. And the GDP goes up, as it has in other countries. As I stated before, Germany has the shortest work week in the world, and they still remain number 4 in GDP and productivity. Sweden still ranks very highly in productivity, and they implemented the short work week almost a decade ago. Switzerland still remains number 1 in innovation and productivity, and they implemented the short work week several years ago. So it is doable, and it can fit lifestyles of the average American. It's just going to take time. It's not a quick fix. It's not something that we can just vote on in November and it's going to be implemented right off the bat. Voting on it in November, it can still take 4 years before it can be implemented. And that's fine, as long as we're working towards it. Because I think it will create a better environment as a whole for all Americans. So what I would beg to say is using the information of the pros and the cons, allowing yourself to make a better informed decision as to whether it will work. Are Free Fridays doable? Does it fit the lifestyle and the work environment for the average American company and worker? For every pro, there is a con. For every con, there's a pro, which means for every problem, there is a solution. So we need to get our best economists, financial planners, logistics, political leaders, and just have a real meeting of the minds and figure out a way over time to make this work. Because I do think Free Fridays are doable. I do think every American could benefit from a 3-day weekend. So again, use the information received to make a more sound decision. Because I myself have had to do so from when I first initially thought about the 4-day work week. It just sounded exciting, like, yes, of course. Who wouldn't want Fridays off, a 3-day weekend? But I didn't take the time to think about the repercussions of that short work week. And now I will. I'll give it much more thought and much more consideration and much more time.